Now let's talk about Matplotlib Subplots, how to draw multiple plots in one figure, and understanding figure versus axis objects, and how to create grid layouts. So it's getting to be interesting, and it is for professional who want to draw attractive graphs in their research papers. So do watch till the end, and if you need the codings, do comment, do add your email in the comment. I will I will send the codings to you. Okay, so first and foremost, as usual, we need to import matplotlib dot py. Okay, so you need to import it and represent it. So I call it plt, and you also need to import the package numpy as np. Okay, these two things are very important. And the next thing you need to do is that you need to define your independent variable. So np line space. Okay, and one thing that you need to know is that here we don't need to add e. Okay, it happened. Okay, so now here you need to add your range. So I'll go from 0 to 10, and you also need to include your steps. Okay, now let's talk about the object oriented approach I'm gonna follow. So I'm going to use the command plt.subplot or plt.subplots, and that's the proportional way to plot. Okay, so let me just quickly write the code fig, and fig is the canvas, the whole window, and then I'm gonna write ax, and you need to know that ax is the individual plot. Okay, the drawing area, and I'm gonna call is equal to, and then I'm gonna call my package. Okay, and here I'm gonna use the command subplots. Okay, or subplot, it depends on you. Okay, now the next thing I need to do is I need to add my number of rows. So number of rows, okay, so let's say 1, and number of columns, or let's say 2. Okay, so you need to add the number of rows and you need to add the number of columns. Okay, since I choose 2 columns, okay, so I'm going to have the graphs horizontally, okay, face to face to each other. And now the next thing is that I also need to include my fig size. So my fig size, let's say is this, that is 12 by 15. So it is done. Now the next thing that I need to do is that ax is now an array of axis objects. Okay, so let me write it. X is now an array of axis objects. Okay, and x0 is your left, this is your left, and x1, this is your right. When we draw the graph, you will understand what is happening. Meanwhile, you just have to focus on the theory and understand, okay, the logic. Now I want to plot on the first axis, which is my left. Okay, so I'm gonna use ax, but here I will use 0, not 1. If I use 1, it means that I'm plotting on the right side. but since I want to plot on the left side, I'm gonna use 0. The next thing is that I'm gonna use the command plot. Okay, here I will put my independent variable and I will put my dependent variable. So let's say this is my y, this is my y, sine x is my y, and np is the package. Okay, and I'm gonna use the color. So there are so many colors you can use. You can use red, blue, anything, but I will go for purple. This is done. Okay, the next thing I need to do is that I also need, let me fix the error. So we have made a mistake. This is m a. Okay, you need to fix the error side by side. Okay, let me just show it. When it is run, then you can see it like this. Okay, so this is your left and this is your right, but since we have drawn nothing on the right, okay, and right is our x1 and this is our x0, and this is your plot. Actually, this is what I am drawing right now. I will come to this later, to the right side later. Okay, so here x0, which means my left side, and x, and this is my x and this is my y, and I choose the color purple. Okay, but here it is unclear like what is going on, so I also need to add my x title, y title. I also need to add the title. Okay, so there are a lot, great deal of things that I need to include, so I'm gonna do it step by step. Okay, so the next thing, the most important thing is that I need to set my title. So I need to know which side I'm working on. So I'm working on the left side, so I'm gonna use 0. Okay, and here I'm gonna choose my title. Okay, so we use its set title, and let's say it is sine wave, not sine x but sine wave. Okay, or sine function, whatever you want to call it. This is just for understanding. Okay, so note one thing, we use set title on x. Okay, this is not plt.title. You need to understand this. The next thing is that we also need to include our x0. Okay, so here we also need to include our x label. So here, if you remember, for simple just one graph we use a plt.x label, things like that, but here you are going to use set then slash x label, things like that you are going to use. Okay, so our x is our independent variable x. Okay, and our y is uh, our y label is just sine x. Okay, so label let's just sine x, sine x. Okay, now if we run it, you will see it here. You can see that this is our x-axis, y-axis, and this is my title. Okay, now there are other things that we also need to include, and it's going to get interesting. Okay, now we need to come to the right side. Okay, so now let's just come plotting on plotting on the right side. We also need to do it, we also need to take care of it. So for the right side we are going to use our x, but this time I'm going to use 1. Okay, what I'm going to use, I'm going to use 1, and I'm going to use float. This time I'm going to choose my independent variable x, and I'm going to choose y is my cos x, and color I am going to choose a different color. I'm going to choose orange. Okay, Since I have already used purple, so there needs to be some difference in the graph settings so that the readers could understand it easily. The next thing is that I need to set my title, so I will call it cosine wave. I also need to set my x level, and I also need to set my y level. Okay, so like above, the same we're gonna paste here. Just the changes we made here is this. Okay, we change just the titles, the coding is the same, and instead of 00 we just put 1. Okay, and let's just add one more thing. Okay, that is title layout, which automatically adjusts spacing so titles labels don't overlap. So plt dot title layout. Okay, and as I said that it's good to use plt dot show so that in Jupyter it is not required, but in other settings it is needed, and it is professional, so you need to do that as well. Now if I run it, and let's see that it will look quite perfect. Now you can see that this is my sine wave, this is my cosine wave, and this is x y axis. Things look pretty good right now. Okay, now let's move forward, and let's add 2 by 2 grid layout. Okay, so let's just add grid 2 by 2 grid. Okay, for that the syntax is the same, but now ax is just a 2D array. Okay, so here again we're gonna call fig. Okay, and axis, and I'm gonna use plt dot subplots, number of rows and number of columns, and fig size. Okay, same like that. So here number of rows we are gonna check. So we have, let's say we have 2 rows, not 1, and number of columns is usual 2. Okay, if we take 1 row, then it wouldn't make sense, since we are already working on 1 row. And let's say that I just reduce it a bit. Okay, so let's say it's 10 edge. Okay, and now to access the top left, what we need to do to access, okay, to accessing, like, okay, accessing the top left. To accessing the top left, we need to use access 00. Okay, this is important. Okay, so access, and here we are going to use 0 0, and then we're going to use plt, and here we're gonna plt, sorry, it's plot, not plt, plot and then x and y, and then r. Here let's use r, not color purple. Okay, so let's, okay, this is to access the top left. Okay, now we also need to set the title. So to set the title, all you need to do is that access 00, set the title, and just call it sine x. Okay, just call it sine x. Okay, when run, you can see below here that we have 2 rows, so 2 more rows and 2 more columns are added here. You can see 1 row and 2 more columns are added, and these are your subplots, and their size are not as big as the above 2. Okay, so that's why I reduce the size. And now we are also gonna plot and the others. Okay, and now let's get ahead and access the top right. Okay, so to access the top right we use x01. Okay, so accessing the top right, and for that what we need to use, access, but this time it's going to be 0 0. Now it depends on you how many axes, how many subplots you want to draw. Three rows, 4 columns, 5 columns, 6 rows. It depends on the size of the the research you are doing and the data you are collecting, things like that. So now all we need to do is that axis, instead of here we are gonna use 1, so here we are gonna use 1, not. Okay, so let's add it. I need to plot it. So the first thing I need to do is I need to use my plot. Okay, and since on the right side we have cos x, so I'm gonna use my function is cos x, not sin x, and here I'm gonna set the title. Okay, so let's just set the title and set title. So this is my x-axis. Okay, now if I run it, you can see that on the right hand side you will see a cos x, which its color is blue. Okay, we choose B here and we choose R here. Okay, now the next thing that are very interesting is that if you want to access the bottom left, then you have to use 1 0, and if you have to access the bottom right, then you have to use 1 1. Okay, now just look at the picture. There are two spaces, so this is my bottom left, this is my bottom right, and this is my 1 0, this is my 1 1. Okay, so same like above, but this time all I need to do is that what I need to do, okay, accessing. You can also, as I said, add as many subplots as you want to. Accessing uh, bottom left, and for that we need to use access 1 0 1 0. Okay, so here access, I'm gonna use the plot. Okay, so plot, and since on the left side this time, let's say I want to draw something else, so let's say I want to draw x and np exponential graph. I want to draw exponential graph, so let's say I use minus x as the input, and then I use green. Okay, and the next thing I need to do is that I need to set my title. Okay, so let's say my title is exponential x. Okay, and you can see it here, exponential decay. This is your exponential function. Okay, we draw it here, we need to draw it below. Okay, so we need to change the positions here. Okay, 1 0, this is not 0 1. Okay, so this is our 1 0. Okay, now if we run it, you can see below here that is drawn, exponential function is drawn here. Similarly, you can add the labels and the y-axis, which is easy, it's not that difficult. Just get the idea and then do the rest on your own. One last graph that we need to include, and this is going to be accessing. Okay, accessing the bottom right. bottom right. Okay, so for that we are gonna use axis 1 1. Okay, so I'll just copy it. Just let me just copy it. Okay, just paste it here. Just change the axis is 1 1, and here I will also change my exponential function. Let's say I use the logarithmic function, which I'm gonna use x plus 1 instead of. I'm gonna also change the color. Okay, so let's say I use M. Okay, okay, so this is going to give me a logarithmic curve, and I also need to change my title. So let's say my title is log x plus 1. Okay, now you need to run it, and you can see it here that this is your logarithmic curve. So I hope it was easy and it was not that difficult. And the most one more thing is that a common issue is overlapping text. So you need to add the tight layout so that the titles and the titles don't overlap. So you just need to include this. If you're working on another window, you are not using Jupyter, then you need to include plt.show. Otherwise the picture will not be displayed. Okay, so it's clear and it's easy.